David, you want to say a little bit about who you are?
Sure. Um, I think, well, I met you through core energetics years ago, radical aliveness. I am an astrologer, evolutionary astrologer, and homeopath, and mostly have made my, bread and butter through nursing, ER nursing, and more recently hospice nursing. But have always had this really love for helping people to see deeper into their life journey, their soul path through the lens of astrology. It's such an amazing wisdom tool. I could go into like how astrology kind of like busted my world open if you want to, but but yeah, I love that wisdom tool.
Well, when did it bust your world open?
Back in like 2002, 2003. Yeah, I had kind of had this. I was raised in the South Carolina. My parents met at a very religious, kind of evangelical university. So I was raised believing that astrology was of the devil.
Of the devil.
Yes, of the devil. So I was scared of it. But in my mid-20s, I had actually moved to Kansas City to go to a ministry school. Was going to become a minister in the charismatic world, and then had this kind of disillusion. Everything just kind of fell apart. And I learned later on that was when Neptune came and opposed all of my Leo energy when Neptune was in Aquarius. And so I had this kind of awakening more into a mystical realm, and ended up having this repeating vision of myself going into this pitch black darkness. I couldn't see where I was going. I was still in the closet. I still was sexuality, and trying to fix that, and just the baggage from my childhood. And so I knew I was being called away from the church. So I ended up doing travel nursing, getting in the car, heading west. Didn't know where I was going to end up. Ended up in Arizona, in Tucson, and I was just in this place, this kind of moment of like openness to other possibilities. And I had a feeling that the encounter with the darkness was about encountering my sexuality, coming to terms with my sexuality. I think it had a lot more stuff going on too, but that was a big part of it. And anyway, I found this astrologer online back in 2002 that you could like email her questions for like $35. I could email her 3 questions. This is funny. And I thought, well, it's email, so it's far enough removed. I don't have to talk to her. I just have to send her an email. And so I emailed her a few questions. One of them was about my sexuality. But anyway, so push pause there. A couple years before this, I was, in Kansas City in the ministry school, in the church, and I was reading this book called Celtic Flames. And it was all about these powerful Irish Celtic monks from like 500 AD, who had these amazing relationships with spirit, and they could do miracles. And it was just like, I knew I had ancestral connection to Irish, Welsh, that whole area, Scott. So I'm like, reading this book, I'm thinking, I wonder if I have connection to these people with my ancestry. So fast forward, I email this astrologer. She gives me this paragraph about my karma. I'm like, karma shmarma, what are you talking about? I didn't really care about karma at that point. And the last sentence of that paragraph was, "Oh, and I see you were a monk in Ireland." I was like,
ow.
I mean, my jaw hit the floor, and my paradigm was just kind of broken open at that point, coming from this very different background. I didn't believe in reincarnation. I didn't believe in astrology.
Yeah.
And that just blew me open because, I mean, she was obviously very psychic, to be able to see that in my chart, but that blew me wide open. And so I knew I had to study astrology. And so I thankfully I was led to evolutionary astrology, which is very soulful and deep. You've experienced it a little bit. But yeah, so that's a little bit of my background, long story, maybe, or.
No, that's great. Well, I experience you. I mean, I know you're all the things that you're into. But I guess I experience you as a kind of mystic, intuitive, empath, psychic, maybe to a degree. I mean, maybe not in the traditional sense, but that you pick up things. It seems you're
right,
and you feel them, and you have a interesting way of, I don't know, articulating them. And we've had a lot of interesting conversations around, because I think you and I think I'm similar in a different way, but you and I have been we've connected. We've seen things similarly, or at least pointing to something that's existed. I think that's one of the reasons we've connected. One of the reasons I've been interested in you and your work, and that you've gone against the grain very often.
Right.
You're kind of a conservative.
Yes. Yeah. I am in which is odd for a gay man who's an astrologer.
That's right.
Who's spiritual and mystic. I'm also conservative. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not that you're a Republican necessarily. I mean, maybe you are, but it's just more that you lean more conservative, particularly recently.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was definitely raised conservative. And then kind of after I had my awakening and accepted my sexuality and, all the things, I definitely became more liberal, and have kind of come back through a more of a swinging. I don't know. I don't know what I would identify as. Probably more of a voluntarist, if people know what that word is, or a libertarian. But
right.
I mean, I really don't. I mean, I don't know. Labels can be confining. Labels can be confining.
Well, let's get right into it, man. You emailed me out of the blue, and you said you wanted a podcast. You wanted to record something. So I assume that you have something to say, something you're seeing, and you want to share it or talk about it.
Yeah, and we can have a conversation about that. Like, I guess I'm going to start with a question. Like, I guess, where do you feel like we're at? Like, what are you feeling about where we're at right now?
I think it's great. I love everything that's happening. I mean, we've talked about this. There has to be a kind of destruction and then a building. Trump, to me, feels like the perfect guy for the job. You need the bull in the china shop. You need someone to shake it up a little bit. And it seems to me like he and Elon are exactly that. And it's uncomfortable. And they're going to break some things that maybe don't need to be broken, but that's just part of the process. It seems like there's a realignment of the world order, like what's going on. That press conference yesterday with Zelensky.
That was pretty wild. Huh?
Pretty wild. He's shaking it all up, and it needs to happen. They're exposing the darkness. It does feel like it's a season of reveal. There's been a lot of corruption, a lot of darkness that's been there, and I don't know whether it's all going to be revealed directly or not, but it's coming out. More and more people are waking up to the truth. We saw the lies, incessant lies about Trump, and then about COVID, and then about Trump again, and I think people are waking up. More and more people are waking up to what's actually going on. That we're living in some kind of Truman Show. And none of the politics is really real. And, but this is the system we've been living under. And I guess in some way it's been serving us. Like, we don't judge it. It's just like, this is what's been happening up to this point. It's part of human evolution. And and everything is
Mm-hmm.
always changing, and we're in a moment of radical change, and it's technological, it's political, it's financial, it's spiritual, and it's all converging, um, and this is just what it is, and this is what it looks like, and it's chaotic, and it's scary, and it's messy, and it can feel a little insane, and I've been saying this for years. The old structures, the old paradigms, they all have to come crumbling down. And there's a lot of the institutions that have been grounding us, holding us, that are no longer useful. And they've become corrupted in part because they are no longer useful. So if you don't have a purpose and you can feel that there's no purpose, you're going to become corrupted. What else is there to do?
Right.
And so it's just, things are just playing out. And I have a part of me that can look at it and judge, and these people are the good people and these people are the bad people. And, but, on a wider lens, this is just what's happening, and I'm all about it. And I think I'm playing my part and you're playing your part. And there's nothing, it's out of our control in a way. And nobody really knows exactly where it's going. Like there's some intelligence, there's some force. I guess, this is how much control do we actually have over it? I don't know. Maybe none, maybe some to shape it. But it does feel like there is a kind of an inevitability to what's happening. And the best thing that we can do is just stay conscious, take care of ourselves, try not to be overly reactive and get involved in the story and the narrative, and go along for the ride.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love all that you're saying, and you could take like just astrology itself. Like there's a lot of people that approach astrology as very fatalistic. Oh, you got this, and this is what's going to happen, right?
Right.
It's describing what's going to happen, and the thing that astrology, the chart, does not reveal is the consciousness that's being expressed through those archetypes. A chart of a beetle that's born at the same time as Jesus Christ, they're going to have the same birth chart, but the consciousness that is expressed, is very different, right? So the fate is very different, and the choices are very different. So yes, there is fate, but there is also agency. We have agency, and we have like we could say each archetype is a broad field that can express that energy, right? And I think for me, it has been important to like, what's the big picture? Or how do I, and that's how I look at things. Like, what's the big picture that it's all? What's the stage that it's all playing out on? And for me, an important contemplation I've had for many years is this idea of the age that we're in, the astrological age. And I think we've talked about this a little bit before. We are in the age of Aquarius. I think a lot of people, astrologers, debate about what age we're in. The reason that is important is because it's kind of like the foundational energy that everything else is arising in. Mm-hmm. And the motivation is very different from the previous age, which was the age of Pisces. And I've been talking about the time that we're in as kind of like this battle of the ages, like one age is trying to hold on to power, and the other age is emerging in a sense.
And astrologically, when did that transition occur? Was there a date or a year or a epoch? How does it work?
That's a great question. And you ask 100 astrologers, they're going to probably tell you 100 different things. Because it's not clear. Like, it's not like the sky is divided up into 30 equal distance constellations, right? So, there's a lot of astrologers that still say we're in the age of Pisces, that we're going to be in the age of Pisces for several hundred more years. I think one of my teachers, Stephen Forrest, talked about if above, if as above, so below is true, then as below, so above is also true.
Mm-hmm.
The inverse is also true.
Yeah.
So if you look at what's happened in society, in culture, on the human level, that's going to reflect a significant shift in for me. Like, just think about the age of Aquarius itself rules information. It's fixed air. We are in the information age, and we have been for a very long time. Fixed air. If you think about fixed air, when did we obtain the ability to fly, to actually fix ourselves in the air?
Interesting.
And that was in 1903 or whenever, when the Wright brothers discovered flight in North Carolina, right? And then all the technology, Aquarius rules technology, and so we've had this huge, like in the last 100 years, technological boom.
Be an indication we are in the age of Aquarius based on what's happening on the planet.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the proof.
Yeah. So the cuspal, and these ages are like 2,600 years long.
Okay.
Varying degrees of length, because obviously the signs are very different in their width in the sky. So the cuspal period between ages can take several hundred years.
Right.
So yeah, to nail down a time, no, I don't think that's possible. At least with our current technology, but I think the expression of the archetypes in the world point to the fact that we are there. And I think another really key, like, moment was 9/11. Because Aquarius, in my way of seeing, and it's very connected to trauma. Aquarius is very connected to trauma. Uranus, the planet that rules Aquarius, is about sudden shock, awe, eruption. It's sudden things happening. And here was a traumatic event on 9/11 that affected the whole planet at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think, it was, and Aquarius is the 11th sign. There were lots of 11s on 9/11. It's just, and this 11 kind of crucifixion, like these two buildings that made an 11 were actually kind of like blown up, in front of us, in front of our eyes. So there was kind of, I don't know, that was a kind of a moment that I feel like points to, okay, we crossed into something new here.
Did you ever see that Back to the Future 9/11 video?
I'm not recalling it in the moment, but
Dude,
you say it, I remember hearing something about that.
It's a crazy video where they take, obviously Back to the Future came out before 9/11, but they take all of these moments from Back to the Future, all these little things that happen, and it in a way, I guess, predicts it, but the coincidences are just, it's crazy. And then remember in The Matrix where he shows his card, the expiration date on his driver's license was 9/11.
Oh, wow. I didn't catch that.
That's what I'm saying. There's all kinds of weird shit around it. And then you just think, how does that even happen? How is that possible? I don't remember all the details from it, but it's on, you just Google it, Back to the Future 9/11. It comes up on YouTube, and it's mind blowing. So mind blowing that like you almost forget about it immediately because it's so overwhelming. If you actually contemplated it, it's like the book, the Barron Trump book. You've heard about that.
Yes.
The last it in, and there's under the tutelage of a guy named Don who lived on Fifth Avenue, and I mean all these weird fucking coincidences. And
we live in a magical world. I mean, it's really is.
Exactly.
It's just undeniable. And I think, for me, astrology really pointed that out to me as well. And I think if I could succinctly say the difference between Pisces, which is the age that came before this one, Aquarius. A key word for Aquarius is sovereignty. And I think, and then Pisces is like the ocean. It's the all into the one, right? There's very little separate identity in Pisces if you think about the pure archetypes, because it is about surrendering to the all, to the one, and losing your own self to something greater than you.
Right.
Which is a beautiful expression. It was a beautiful expression on the tail end of Aries. But we've, time keeps marching on, and we've moved into a time where differentiation, uniqueness is so fucking important.
Yeah.
And our ability to be able to make room for differentiation and individuality is really important.
So what you're getting at is we came out of a time, the Pisces, where it was more like the idea of collective, that we had to dissolve ourselves to be a part of the whole, like one drop of water in the ocean. And now when I think of sovereignty, I think of individuality, this idea that which is reflected really in American culture, which is probably
exactly
communal culture. That, I mean, everybody's connected under one umbrella, but everybody's their own entity, their own person. At least the concept is that we all have our own individuality and our own sovereignty. We're all self-responsible under this one collective umbrella, which we're kind of used to it because we grew up in that. But it's a revolutionary idea. And I'm even thinking about it in terms of Anne's work. Both of us work with a woman named Anne Bradney. And that was in some way really at the heart of what she was doing, is that we can all be fully expressed. We can all be our individual self, but we can do it and be together. There's a way that doesn't necessarily have to create separation. But there's space and there's room for all of us as individuals to stay connected, so that you are with the collective, but you're not abandoning or betraying yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like community or connection in the age of Aquarius requires self-knowledge.
Right.
Requires self-actualization and self-reflection, that whole Jungian idea of self-actualization. I think it's a Jungian or Maslow, or both maybe. But yeah, the idea of sacrificing, which is a Neptune Pisces word, sacrificing yourself for the group, that's over. That's done.
Right.
There's no sacrificing, that's going to be Pisces as an archetype doesn't go away. But as far as the overall general theme and foundation that we're living in now, that we're really being called to taking responsibility for ourselves and getting really clear about what our uniqueness is and bringing that into the connection with the collective or the group. And so it's chosen connection, chosen relationship, chosen familiarity, whatever, family, all that. So the tension between the individual and the collective, and we're feeling that tension growing and growing and growing. And we talk about polarity, and people don't like the polarity. Well, this is the nature of Aquarius, really.
Interesting.
I think our stretching our capacity to be able to hold greater and greater amounts of tension and polarity. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because that's what the individuality is going to require. It's going to require more and more of that. With Pisces, it was easy. We can just surrender. Like if we can all just gather around one belief or one common goal,
one God,
one ideology. Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
The differences don't matter. But Aquarius is like the differences really, really matter, and we have to honor them. So it's, I would say for me, like looking at the last century, and this kind of like dueling out of these two different energies, like communism to me is a like really deep shadow of Piscean trying to encountering Aquarius, right? Because if you think about communism, it is this, we all have to agree and believe the same thing. It's like the sacrificing of the individual, you know, like my goods, my property belongs to everyone,
Yeah.
right? So this is kind of, and these things happen like in astrology, like when the sun leaves or when a planet leaves a sign, when we exit out of an energy, that's when the shadow becomes really apparent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
I see. I see. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so it's a
And
contrast.
is it, I don't want to get going down the rabbit hole of astrology and what it is, but let me
Right.
name some things and you can correct me because I'm sure I'm going to get them wrong. But the way that I understand astrology, because you're using terms like energy, and so that all of the stars and the sun and the planets, I guess it's the planets and the sun and the moon, they they sort of form different constellations, and the energy of that they're emitting some kind of energy, some kind of intelligence, some kind of consciousness, maybe that is beyond really our comprehension, like exactly how that works, or maybe it's not. I don't know, but that it has an impact on us, and
Mhm.
it's influencing events. And there's qualities in it that influence us in ways that we can't quite comprehend, and we're governed by them in some way. Is that
I mean that is definitely the way that a lot of astrologers would talk about it. I think I prefer to refer to it as a mirror. You know, instead of that being an influence on us,
uh,
that is reflecting what is actually naturally arising in our being. You know,
uh-huh.
so it's more of a shamanic kind of like, oh, there's a sign, you know, a crow just flew over, and that says something to me about based on what I was just thinking about or saying to someone. It's kind of a confirmation, or it's, you know, it's that kind of thing, but on a bigger, more fixed level, because the sky is pretty fixed in the way that it works, right?
Mm-hmm.
So over eons and eons of time, we've been able to correlate events in our daily lives, in our living. um, we've been able to reflect on the sky, especially when we didn't have TV to entertain us at night. You know, we had the sky to look up to and to reflect on, right? um, and so we causation, correlation, you know, a natural kind of law developed, natural science. And so yeah, there are probably like I know Ra Uru, who developed human design, talked about neutrinos, and it was these particles of information, neutrinos, that flew through the stars, that came from the stars through the planets. You know, so you could say the planets are moving through this backdrop of the constellations, right? And so if all these neutrinos are passing through the planets and then passing through the Earth, we're all getting kind of bombarded with this information from that's colored by
uh,
these different archetypes, you know, the constellation in the planet coming into the Earth, you know. So
Neutrinos
um,
are what, like
a subatomic particle. I'm not a scientist. I don't know, but huh?
that carry some kind of data or intelligence, or has a particular vibration or code that has an influence on us.
Right. It's like
Yeah.
it's particles of information is what I would boil it down to.
Interesting.
Um, yeah. Um,
Man, these fucking scientists lecturing.
there's, but I think we're on a threshold, you know, of, you know, I think especially in the age of Aquarius, you know, because I think more and more um, cookbook medicine, which is, you know, we take this one protocol to fit everybody, which is very Piscean in its approach. It's like we're all the same. We can just take this one way of doing this process works this way for everybody. No, that's not true.
Right.
Aquarius is it's like the individual matters the most, the individual path. And so, and Aquarius rules information. So, there's, and I think we're learning more and more that disease is really based on the way that we psychologically respond to and deal with stress in our lives and the way that we don't deal with it, and that's expressing through our body. But anyway, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
I understand. It's well, so we've created I think a broad frame. Is there something like, what are you seeing going on specifically? I mean, if you want to talk in specifics, right now in the world.
Yeah. So how I have likened it recently is that we are kind of, especially in this country, but I think in the world, to create a level of control for the whole population under the age of Pisces required a lot of shadow, a lot of dark, hidden rules, the hidden, the secret, what's behind things you can't see. You can't see what's deep in the ocean, right?
Yeah. Right.
And so we've been, in order for society to really exist in a way, at least under this old way of being, the powers that be have had to control us through secrecy and through manipulation of information, all of that.
Yeah.
And that definitely got up to a whole new level with Neptune in Pisces, which it's been in Pisces for the last 14 years, 15 years, something like that. Neptune being in the sign that it naturally rules, and Neptune in the U.S. chart, so that each entity, human has a chart, but also a country has a chart.
Sure.
And so Neptune has been going through the third house of the country's chart, America's chart. And the third house is all about information, what we take in, communication, so if you just marry those two archetypes of Neptune, it's going through the house of communication, media. We have been in a season of really intense information war, we could say, right?
Wars out.
And delusion, illusion.
Yeah.
I mean, so much propaganda and brainwashing. And this was connected in 2009, I think, is when Neptune went into the third house of the US's chart.
A lot of people woke up right around 2008. That's kind of when I woke up. Not fully, but a little bit. Yeah. Like, what the fuck is? I thought Obama was a good guy. He's just giving all this money to the banks. What? What's happening?
Well, and see, that's when I look at it, because I saw in 2007 that Obama was going to win. And so I want to, if you give me a little leeway here to share something.
Well, can we a little preface? Like, you and I really bonded because back in 2000, first of all, I totally thought, I didn't have an intuitive hit, but I was just looking at it. I was like, yeah, Obama's going to win. It was obvious to me in 2007. It's just, of course, right? Charismatic. It was the best story. But you and I really bonded in 2015 because we were the only two guys on Facebook that were coming out saying, I like Trump. Like, he's interesting. Like, he's here to do so. Like, we both saw it from the same perspective. Like, we weren't in judgment of him. We were just like, this guy is here to turn the tables over. And it needs to be turned over. Like, that was obvious to me. It was obvious, like, after 8 years of Obama, we just got fed so much bullshit. Nothing changed. He went in there and just the establishment, the whole thing was fucking corrupt, and he was polished and he had it together. and he was perfect. And I remember thinking, we need somebody who's just wild to come in, like who's real. And then Trump came on the scene, and at first I didn't take him seriously because I just thought it was a stunt. And then I started paying a little attention. I was like, oh, this guy, he's smart. Like he's very, very smart, and he knows what he's talking about, and a lot more than people think, or that we're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And then immediately when they started attacking him like fucking crazy, that's when I was curious. It's like, why are they attacking him so with all these, because you'd hear like, oh, Trump said this. You'd be like, what the fuck, man? And it sounded horrible. And then you go listen to what he actually said. And it wasn't that at all. It was so, I'm like, why are they lying about him incessantly? And then I just logically thought, well, he must be a threat to them. Why is he such a threat? Like, why are they calling this the guy who's had a hit TV show is suddenly he's Hitler? Make it make sense to me,
Right.
And I was just like,
Right.
Obviously these people, he knows something that they don't want exposed, and they're going to lie about him to keep him down. And that's when I wasn't ideological for me. I was just looking at the situation going, what the fuck? This makes no sense. And then I started having intuition like, oh, okay, no, this guy's here for a reason. He's the perfect guy for the job. He's going to upset the apple cart. And you were saying a similar thing on Facebook and in other places from your own perspective. And we kind of bonded over that. And we both got irritated over that as well. And so we share that trauma of being early to Trump and having, most of our friends either abandon us or tell us we were complete fucking assholes.
Right.
A little backstory.
Yeah, it's important. Yeah, I remember posting something about Trump and losing dozens of friends, within 24 hours or something. But it's totally fine.
Celebrate now how we were ahead. Let's let the ego just have its due. Right? Those fucking people were wrong. They were stupid. And I, my is open to apologies. I'm just let everybody know. Okay.
That's cute. I love it, David. Well, I feel like it's important for me to share a little bit more about what happened in 2008 for me when Pluto went into Capricorn.
I love this.
And Pluto is really about kind of deep transformation, and Pluto rules the underworld, hell, right? Pluto is the god of the underworld in mythology, and Capricorn is really about government and structures, and the way that the structure in reality works. That's all Capricorn territory. And the structures that we as humans have created to help, rule us or create society. Anyway, in 2008, I ended up in the mental hospital. 2008, yeah. So, just a brief backstory. So I had a healing practice, intuitive healing practice, and I was attracting people into my practice who had present or past life experience with satanic ritual abuse and mind control.
Wow.
Pretty dark, deep stuff. And I had yet to kind of awaken to my own past life reality with that, but it definitely was not in my current life reality. And it was like shocking that I was attracting these people, but I had enough trust in being to know, like, okay, this is correct for me to be engaging with, but it was a little scary, and then like early 2008, I had this vision of myself kind of being blown out, from this collective unconscious. The vision was I was standing in the bottom of this well that was dry, and all of a sudden there was this earthquake shaking. And this body of water that was way beneath the well, which wasn't even connected to the well, kind of shot up out of the well like a geyser and blew me out. And so I knew that something was getting ready to happen to me that was going to be intense, and that it was connected to, we could say, collective unconscious, that deep water underneath the earth.
Yeah.
That's how I interpreted it. And so it was on Palm Sunday of that year that I ended up in the middle. And it was all about, like, it was like the sin I had been eating with the ritual abuse, like, took over me, and I became it. Like, I became identified with it, and I was being fractured, because the way that kind of trauma works, it's like fracturing the mind to create alters, multiple personalities that can be controlled and manipulated, and information, events, things can be shared secretively without the person even really being able to remember them, because they're so fractured that that's walled off into this one part that's traumatized.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it was like I was taken behind the curtain and shown that there was a level of control that most people didn't realize was going on in the world.
And it
that was based on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well,
it's based on trauma.
Yeah.
Our connection's a little slow. I don't know if it's my internet or yours, but
okay, go ahead.
So involving children, involving ritualistic abuse, involving honeypots, where politicians, people in power, people, influencers would get sucked into this world and have these horrific things that most of society would frown on and really be in an uproar about if it ever came out that this person had sex with a minor, so it was all this system of control and secrecy, all the Pisces, Neptune stuff that I was talking about before. And I was just shown that this was the reason why we were in the mess we were in, because the control was so pervasive and so ubiquitous, and the brainwashing that came from all of that. Because if you can control everyone, control the information, the media, everything, you control what everyone believes.
Yeah.
And so this was kind of like the peek behind the curtain for me that I got in 2008. That really kind of, it was very shocking, traumatizing for me, but it helped me to see, like, what we were up against.
You really saw it, and it caused you to have a kind of psychic break because of the intensity of the information, because of how overwhelming it is, and what a thing to face and see. And then I guess what did you think? Like, what did you wonder? What did you have doubt? Where did your mind go?
Well, doubt about
what you.
I didn't know. I knew that what I was seeing was real.
You knew.
I knew it was real. And then there was the part of me that was like, felt guilty or felt ashamed about what I was experiencing, because I'd been an ER nurse. I'd seen people in psychotic breaks many, many times, cared for them, in the ER. And I was ashamed that, oh, here I am going through this thing that I consider has stigma.
Right.
And, people don't understand, there's, medicine doesn't understand a shamanic dismemberment experience, or, which I kind of, I interpreted what I was going through. I knew what I was going through was kind of an initiation into, and it wasn't just an initiation. It was kind of like a healing crisis that I was, I was a part of, or I was experiencing. So yeah, and it kind of like, it kind of shut me down to spirituality for quite some time. Like I had to just kind of turn off anything spiritual for quite some time. Did you hear me?
Yeah, sorry. I'm trying to check the stream, and it's like, I don't know Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it gets a little fuzzy or a little feedback here and there. So I don't know if you're hearing me or not, but
Yeah, no.
yeah. So I guess I'm open to a question because I think I lost my train of thought there.
Yeah. Sorry, David. I'm just checking on the line.
Yeah, no worries.
Make sure that's okay. And yeah, I haven't had this all figured out, so I appreciate your patience as I'm dealing with some of the technical challenges.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
But yeah, I guess so that you talked about the shame, the stigma that comes with this kind of psychic break, that you wind up in a hospital. And are you, like, your experience of it is what exactly? Like you don't have control over yourself. You don't know what's real. Like what is a psychic break? Like how did you experience it exactly?
So I'm trying to feel how to answer that question. So world, there's something called intercession or intercessors, which is this idea that you are standing in the gap for something, you're praying for someone or something, and you have to become identified with that thing in order to be able to really be effectively praying for it or interceding for it. It's a Christian version. It's a Christian version of shamanic mode. That's how I interpret it now. That's how I see it now. It's a shamanic expression. And what I had been invited to become identified with was so fracturing that it necessitated me being fractured.
I see.
And I needed the container of a mental hospital to allow all of that shattering to happen, to be projected onto.
Wow.
If that makes sense,
That's
so there.
bad.
It was there was so much energy flowing through me. It was like I remember all I could do was hold on to my body, and like I it's okay for me to stay here. I got to stay here, like staying in my body, because there was just so much erupting, like that vision of this body of water erupting out of me, and that. So a piece that I left out, which I realized later on, is because I told you that I saw Obama winning in 2007. I also got the invitation from Spirit when I saw that, like, will you stand in the gap for him? Will you intercede for him? And back then I was naive. I didn't know. I mean, looking back on it now, I'm like, why did he need to be president? Anyway, we can go there, but I feel there was an attempt to remove him from the chessboard, and I think where we are now collectively was dependent on him being in the White House. Because it was almost like his presidency, like, pried open a possibility for the wild card of Trump.
Right, exactly.
Which we would not have had if Hillary had won.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he needed to be president. I feel like that's just my strong sense on it.
Yeah.
And like where I was being asked to stand spiritually or in a shamanic way required me to kind of encounter this, like, really deep evil that was trying to take him out, even though he was part of that evil. Maybe, I don't know.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot that I don't know. There's just a lot that I know in my being.
No, you can't know all the details and all the specifics. It doesn't work.
No.
You get a sense of the essence of the thing, and that's really all you need to know.
Right.
That there's some very dark force that is involved in ritualistic abuse of children, and that's part of the control system that's being governing the earth that is now being revealed. I mean, it is interesting that you had that I guess it's a vision or that break where that came to you, and
I was in it essentially.
Yeah, I didn't hear about this. Nobody was talking about this stuff back in 2007, 2008. It was only it started to come on my radar in, I guess, 2016. I guess was it Q? Because there was a lot of talk with Q around that this is how they control the politicians. They're all pedophiles. And
right.
I was like, okay, I don't know. I was just like, I don't know. Well, because it's too much.
It's a lot, yeah.
You're just like, I can't fucking, I'm sure. And then, and as as a therapist, it's like that pedophilia it's everywhere. I mean, so many people have been molested or abused sexually when they were children. So many, right? So
yeah.
that, it's totally true. And then, you think about how dark that is. And you think, it is the perfect way to try to control people. And then because I started to go down the rabbit hole at a certain point, it's like, okay, how would this actually work? And I had a little bit of, in Hollywood, and I was hanging out at the Playboy Mansion, and I was a little bit famous, and I was making some money, and you just start to flirt with that feeling of the rules don't apply to me. I get to do whatever I want. Not that I did anything illegal or untoward, really, but I felt the impulse of that, the very beginnings of, it was more in relationship to women, like, oh, I could just, I don't have to commit. I can just whatever, have orgies all the time. It's fine. That's the way it is for people who are successful. And of course, it's all bullshit. It's an illusion. But you can imagine if you believe that, and then you go to the next level of that thinking, and you keep going down the rabbit hole. And we know that once a little piece of darkness takes hold, it just keeps compounding on itself. And it has to go deeper and deeper, deeper and darker, like an addiction, right? It always gets worse until it bottoms out. Well, then suddenly it made sense. Suddenly, actually, satanic ritual, sexual abuse of children used to control politicians. Actually, that makes perfect sense. And if I was trying to control the world and I was evil, that's probably what I'd do. So,
and this is why the outsider Trump coming into that world was has been such a threat, and if they had that kind of information on him, that would have been released already. They would have already taken him out with that.
Of course, they knew that they must have known that he knew about it or knew enough about it and never got involved in it. And they had nothing on him, and that there was plenty on them. And can you imagine how that must feel?
Yeah.
Someone's got a tape of you. Like, I mean, talk about being a slave.
Right.
Or owned.
Right.
Somebody shows up your door. This is what I need you to do. It's like, that's it. It's over. So you saw it, man. But it's one thing, we're talking about it right now in the abstract. We don't really go there. We don't really think about what actually happens and allow our mind to create a visual inside our own head and think about everything that would be around it, how it would work, and what they'd have to do to make that happen. But it sounds like you went there. And that would of course you'd have a psychic break.
Yeah, and it wasn't all conscious in the moment. Like, there's a lot of this stuff took me time to kind of really kind of, because it was an eruption. It was I think it was partly I don't think I would have gone where I went if I knew where I was going to be going. It's like I had to kind of stumble like a fool into the abyss, right?
Yes.
and then kind of after the fact start to kind of make sense of what it was about, like what the fuck, like and the brainwashing and the mind control that was being foisted on all of us, like yeah, I just got to see it early and not really be able to talk about it, but just kind of hold a space like, okay, and hoping, I think there were times where I went through hopelessness or just like it's like you're fractured as I came out of that whole experience, and it was a protracted experience. I came out of that pretty fractured and fairly despondent. It was
despondent. Why?
I think just having to walk through that level of evil, it was like, it was so, like, it was shell shocking.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, I knew about the evil before all of that, but to have to like actually go into a place of into the energy of it and be in it and survive the energy.
Yeah.
And it was very archetypal. I mean, I told you, I went in on Palm Sunday, I got out on Good Friday. It was very kind of this like crucifixion energy. It was very, it's beyond my ability to really understand fully, but I knew, I also knew that we were at a point in human history that we were ready to be extricated out of that energy. This is an energy that has been operating for millennia. This is not a recent thing. This is hundreds, thousands of years.
Yeah.
And we're at a point now, I think, I feel very strongly that we are coming out of it. And it's going to I think this year is going to be really intense because I think a lot of people, this year and especially this year, I think, we're probably in like a 5 to 10 year window of time that's going to be shocking for people. But what I feel, where I see we're at right now is we're in surgery. We're under anesthesia. We're in surgery.
Yeah.
There is an infection that's killing us. If we talk being the body, that is on the table, and there's cells on the surface that are like, why can't we just get along, and why can't we just it's that wanting unity, wanting to get rid of the polarity, and all of these like pet issues that are on the surface that I feel like from where I'm seeing or where I have been shown, like, this stuff doesn't fucking matter. It's like we have to be in a place of like,
well, people have to have a story.
Retractors.
Yeah.
Right.
Have a story to attach their anxiety and their fear and their anger, and then they have to have a mission so that they can feel safe, because it's like if they really confronted what was actually going on, it's too much, right? So it makes sense that it's playing out in all these kind of silly ways, the woke and racism and transgender. It's all an expression of the underlying terror and fear that people can.
Yes.
Because I know that I went through, I didn't go through a psychic break, but when I was up in Idlewild living by myself, and this was 2017, I got there, I think, and I was I was awake to a lot of what was going on, but I don't think I really understood how deep it was in terms of the corruption and the propaganda of the media. And I started listening to the No Agenda podcast, which is all about that. It just deconstructs media, and it's Adam Curry and John C. Dvorak, and they've been doing this show for 15 years, and they just show you it's all bullshit. Like, everything's a fucking lie, and then they trace it back to what it's actually about, what it is they're trying to accomplish, and they just pull back the curtain, and they have a very it's a comedy show. Look, it's humorous. Like they hold it lightly, and that's the intention of it, really. So it's quite remarkable, the show. But and I fell in love with it. But I was just it was also took me to despair because I used to watch CNN. You know, I used to believe the things that newscasters would say, and I was in Hollywood. I was, part of the structure that was facilitating propaganda. And, I bought into it and fully. And I mean, ultimately I got out, some instinct, got me out of it. I don't know. But I went into a deep despair and there wasn't anybody, as I'm sure you could relate to, there wasn't anybody I could talk to. Who nobody cared. Everybody was just like Trump, oh my God, he's gonna blow up the world. And then COVID hit, and everybody's screaming about getting the vaccine and wearing the mask, and everybody's in a fucking state of terror. Nobody wanted to hear it. And so I had Angela, I would talk to her, and I remember at one point she was like, I think you're going a little crazy. I was kind of manic, and a part of it I was up in the mountains alone, and so I'm a pretty grounded guy, and I've done a lot of work, and I have a lot of friends, and I have a lot of support that's available to me, and I cracked up. Okay, like just from the info, I didn't have the experience that you had, where it just kind of came through me like a well erupting. But just kind of seeing what was going on. So imagine the average person who's not, just going about their lives. Like it's too much. It's too much. But then the force of it is like the pressure of the truth is there and it's coming up against their illusion. And we can all add that experience to a degree, but it's happening like on a mass level. And it's creating this insanity in groups of people. And when you're in that state of terror, you can do anything. You can rationalize anything. And that's the thing to me that is scary about the kind of woke movement, is that once you've decided that Trump is evil and MAGA is evil, and they're all liars and it's all misinformation, these people who don't want to get the vaccine are evil or crazy, you can rationalize doing just about anything. And history shows us, if you look back at Mao's China or Stalin's Russia, that it can go pretty fucking dark. And that's what I see. And so it's like, I feel this, that Trump and Musk are being very strong. And you can see from their perspective how it feels fascistic, totalitarian. But how the fuck else can it be in some way? You know what I mean? When you are dealing with that level of insanity, like if you're not firm, they're going to fucking just devour you. And so it's this
right. Well,
still bind, I think, in people. And it's I don't know what there's no clean way out of this, I guess is what I'm saying. Like,
there isn't. It isn't going to be pretty.
Before we get to the other side.
Right. I mean, we have to go through the surgery, and it's a dark night of the soul for humanity. Some of us have been given the ability to see where we're going. Some people have no clue, and they're holding on for dear life to their way of seeing where we're at. And, it's sad for me. And there's a lot of emotion. Like, I get pissed, angry, I get grieved. It's painful.
Yeah.
And I think we have to keep feeling and owning what we, that's why I love your work. And I mean, it's an internal job, and the more that we can do our work, the more that we can support the collective, because we're all connected. You know, that's what my journey has shown me, that we're all connected.
Yeah.
And this is a surgery we have to go through. This is a dark night that we have to go through, and I see Trump. You know, I was shown that Trump had the strength to reveal, not whether he does it consciously or whether his being in that position facilitates the reveal.
Yeah.
Like, I was shown that he had the strength, the cojones to get that reveal, because we can't have freedom. We can't have sovereignty if we are controlled by that amount of evil. It's just impossible.
Yeah.
And you know, if you look at a bigger picture, there's a way in which we've allowed this to happen. Like, right, you know, there's a way in which, you know, I mean, but that can be helpful at one point. But I think where I'm standing right now, and where I feel like I have to stand, is like, Trump is where he needs to be. I see him as a loving father who is bringing correction. I don't feel the fascist. I don't feel a dictator. I don't feel that energy that feels very
sense of humor. Don't have senses of humor. The guy makes jokes all the time, and he holds things lightly. You know, he's not a tyrant, you know.
If he was a tyrant or fascist, he would not have left the White House the first time.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, so Neptune's getting ready to go into Aries.
What's that mean?
The end of this month, through like October, it'll be in Aries for like a 6-month window, and then it'll end up staying in Aries next year. So, you know, I talked about Neptune in Pisces, like the dial on the misinformation and the delusion illusion has been very, very high while Neptune was in Pisces.
Uh-huh.
And Neptune has been going through like that third house of the US chart, which is all about communication, media, perception. Uh-huh. So perception has been very distorted since 2009, especially in this country. I mean, for much longer than that, but especially since 2009. Well, this year, Neptune is crossing out of the third house and into the fourth house of the US chart, and in Aries. So to me, this is like rude awakening time. It's like, you know, it's like water entering fire creates a lot of steam.
This is so when in April.
This is the end of this month.
The end of this month
is when Neptune, March 30th. Neptune enters Aries. It'll hit the nadir of the bottom of the US chart in April.
Right. Okay.
You know, so we're talking about a fundamental feeling. Like, so the bottom of the chart is like the core identity of a being. So in this sense, the core identity of this nation is going to be encountering shock, say, in a way, but also like Neptune rules spirituality. So there's a shadow, there's a high road and a shadow road for every archetype, right?
Yeah.
You know, so
saying there's going to be there's something, the chart suggests that something shocking is going to be revealed, perhaps related to all these things that we've been talking about, but that level of darkness. And if we see it, and it's going to be undeniable, and we're going to have to confront it and face what it is, who we are as a nation, and that is going to change everything and probably cause more insanity and chaos, I would imagine.
That feels very potential. Feels very possible. I don't feel like that is inevitable. It feels like there's, I don't know, with the pace that we've been moving. Like if we had encountered Neptune crossing this threshold with someone else in the White House, I think we would be in a very different position. I think we would be entering a world war, and probably on our soil.
Yeah.
With this transit. this transit feels much more internal now. It's not so much external. I don't see us entering into a world conflict. I don't see that happening. I do feel us going through a identity crisis. And people kicking and screaming. You know, it's like there's a way in which the toddlers have been running the roost right now, you know, with the tantrum. And I think that's going to continue. It may get worse. You know. And
we never should have let David. That was where it all started.
You're a mess.
The more it's just like it was a big mistake. Sorry.
Yeah, so the spirit, religion, spirit, and war, you know, what if you put those together, that's jihad. You know, so I really see the potential of terrorism exponentially increasing. That feels like a real potential. If daddy can't, if there can't be control and like discipline, you know, like, and we can't really face the reality of like this kind of way of thinking, this kind of fundamentalism is actually a threat to our survival.
Of course.
To the survival of our society, of our civilization.
He said yesterday, he's like, oh, you know, you have this ocean, but you know, it's going to come across the ocean. Like, you wait and see. It's like, what? And Trump fucking shut him down. It was like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? Is that a threat?
That was a threat. Yeah. It felt like a threat to me.
I was like, you just stand the fuck down. Now, I understand it from Zelensky's point of view that he's been a pawn in this fucking game, and that essentially
totally
been running Ukraine, and he's been playing his part. And now Trump has come in, and it's like, yeah, that's over. And now you're like, I don't, you know, it's a whole new set of rules. And I can see I would imagine it feels like a betrayal to him in some way. Now it's his own fucking fault, but nevertheless, I can see that he feels betrayed. And that's why he's angry, and Europe feels betrayed. But it's like, you guys, what the fuck were you thinking? And I don't know, and then all the open borders, and it feels really like the potentiality for chaos within the country is, including terrorism, is there. And also, if it feels like if you're have no grip, no way to get to Trump, which is like he's winning, and he's smart, and he's been there before, so he understands the game, and he's not letting up. And I can imagine where they feel like they can't get a hold of the situation, that there's nothing they can do to stop him, to slow him down, that they would start resorting to some pretty dark shit. Again, if you are hiding that level of evil, that you're afraid that that's going to get exposed, what would you do? I know what I would do. Pretty much anything. You know?
Well, that's what they've been doing.
Yeah.
That's what they've been doing. And I think that's why they've had to move so fast with Doge and the purging. Like,
of course,
part of that is to mitigate the reaction that's going to be coming. Yeah. So I feel like we're in a much better place now. Like I feel yes, there's still going to be pockets of trauma, terrorism, backlash. It doesn't feel the potential of like totally sidelining or derailing this movement toward freedom feels impossible now. It doesn't feel like that's even on the table anymore.
People are they'll die. I'm not,
people are going to die. Yeah.
Yeah. People are going to die. But I mean, people like I see the energy on Twitter. Nobody's going back. We're not going back to woke. We're not going back to communism. We're not letting you motherfucking crazy fucking people control us with your shame that, we push back against anything, or we ask a question, you just scream racist or transphobe. You control us. Nobody's buying.
Nationalism is not going away. Nationalism is here to stay.
Of course.
How can you have a global connection relationship if it's forced on everybody, which is what the New World Order was more of a Piscean expression of like, we've got to corral everyone into this way of being, right? I don't know how much time we have left, but I wanted to say that when I saw Trump winning back in 2015, I think I talked to you about this. I saw America was like this woman on an operating table, and he was going around this woman's body and like doing surgery, lancing boils. Like there was all this infection, which is about identity. It's about borders, boundaries, all of that. The relational is all skin, metaphorically speaking. And he was doing the surgery. I see that, that played out in his first presidency, but I think it's playing out much bigger now, that vision. But I wanted to say, like, I also saw back then, I saw things just falling off of him, like off of a duck's back. Like things would just roll off of him, and that's played out too. Like they've tried sticking things at him, and it just doesn't work. I also saw that he would come out of the White House with the highest approval rating of any president in the last 100 years, maybe further back. That hasn't come to pass yet because he hasn't exited the White House. But I still feel that is going to happen. I think there's going to be enough of a sea change. People are going to, they're going to, if we can make it through the shock and the awe, people are going to realize, holy fuck, wow.
No, obviously, I feel that way because you just got to respect the game. Like whatever side. This just the show of it is the guy's incredible and hilarious. Two, he's completely operating like outside of his the matrix. Like he's doing his own thing. He's incredibly persuasive. And here's the irony: is he egoless? Not exactly, but he's more egoless than most politicians you see, meaning he doesn't give a shit what people think of him. He does the right thing. That's literally the definition of egoless, right? People call him a narcissist, and I understand he has narcissistic sort of, kind of psychopathic tendencies for sure. Like I get that, but he's not a true narcissist, like, because otherwise he'd be kowtowing for, privilege, and they're projecting that onto him. Oh, everything he does, so he looks good in the eyes of Putin or get richer. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, none of that makes sense to me. So he's some kind of like highly evolved in his own way person. And he was born to do this. And whether it's, instinctual or conscious, I have no idea. It doesn't really matter. I think he's a lot more conscious of it than he lets on. He's, people who get to know him are like, that guy's fucking, he's smart. Like, don't be fooled. Like, he knows what the fuck is going on. And I think people realize that, you just can't deny power, because power is real. Like people who can hold power, gather power, hold it and wield it. That is a very, very difficult skill, especially when there's, people trying to kill you. And he has demonstrated, through the last, 8 years, that he's like probably the greatest of our lifetime. I mean, you can see that Putin is just like in awe. Like he's like, fuck the guy. Yeah, I got to give it up. Like that guy's badass, surviving the lawfare, all the bullshit. And he just keeps rolling. He just keeps rolling, making jokes and showing up. And he never has doubt. He doesn't even get angry. Exactly. He gets forceful, but not angry in a bitter, resentful way, which is fucking remarkable. Now, people don't see that because they project all kinds of shit onto him, but he has a kind of, I don't know, he holds it all lightly in a way. And I think he understands how the world works more than any other American politician. And, I think we're waking up to something, and he is like a shaman waking us up from the dream.
I think what I want to say, like in his chart, his birth chart, his south node, which is kind of like where I look as an evolutionary astrologer to see like where is this person coming from on a karmic level. So prior to this life, if you believe in reincarnation, or ancestrally, if you don't believe in reincarnation, his south node is in the fourth house, the bottom of his chart in Sagittarius, which tells me that he has a deep faith in himself.
Yeah.
In his roots, where he comes from. He has very clear, strong identity, and so I think some people can perceive that as narcissistic or something of that nature. I get the narcissist
Sure.
label. I don't feel that so much with him. I feel it's this deep faith and trust and belief in who he is and what he's here about. That's very different than being narcissistic. It gives him this deep strength to come from, and his north node is in the 10th house, which is like government, affecting the world, really, with Uranus right there. Uranus being the planet that rules Aquarius, which we've been talking about, sovereignty.
Yeah.
So all about being. It's all about freedom. With Uranus, and it's in Gemini, which is information, and the Fool, like so he's playing this part, and often when you see Uranus connected to the nodes, there is some level of genius that comes into that. Well, that sphere, which the 10th house would be government, politics. He's playing this archetype of the Fool because he has such deep faith in himself. He can be the Fool. He doesn't mind people projecting that onto him. But he has enough strength in himself. That's how I see.
The power play dumber than your mark.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's a tactic, And he also, like in poker, there's the most effective poker image. Like when you sit at a poker table, whether you're aware of it or not, you're projecting an image, and the best poker players are doing it very consciously. And everybody knows that the most effective poker image is the wild man. Like you don't know what he's going to do next, and so they do a lot of things that are unpredictable, and they have to kind of do some crazy things to demonstrate that they are in fact crazy. And so, which may involve them, doing something kind of quote unquote stupid, but it's all a play, long term. And that's what I see. Playing the wild man at the poker table. You never know what he's going to do next. It's hard to know if what he's saying he means, but it's like you can't. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. But it's there's a lot of power in that, and it's very, very smart and not an easy thing to hold because, of course, nobody sees you, right? People are putting all kinds of things onto him and assigning motivations, making all of these assumptions, and I don't see that. It's clearly he's a tactician. It's all strategy, and so narcissists are very concerned about how they appear to other people. The ability to sort of operate when nobody is understanding or seeing what you're doing, that to me signifies deep sense of self-esteem, self-love, self-awareness, and a high degree of emotional intelligence. So I don't know, that it seems obvious to me, but there's a lot of people with.
I love hearing that reflection from you. That feels very true. And the astrology plays that out too. But
well, I know as a leader, from my own, like you have to, when you're leading workshops, there's a lot of transference coming at you, as a therapist. And so, you know consciously that you're everybody's dad on some level. And so the way that people are relating to you in this position of authority is as they related to their father. And so however they feel about their father, there's going to be some transference of that onto you. And I'm aware of that.
For sure.
Aware of that. I'm not being seen, and I have to tolerate not being seen and then working with what's coming up from them. I have to be of service in that way. And that's what I see him doing. And I think it's not an easy thing to do. And most people don't they don't understand it. They don't understand what it means. They don't understand how to do it. It's a very, very advanced skill that very, very few people acquire, because very few people are actually put into that kind of position.
Right. I mean, this is very clearly to me a calling. This is his destiny. He is living out his destiny.
Yeah.
You know, I feel grateful to be able to watch it and to see him for what he is. At least how I, you know, and I agree with you completely. Like, yeah.
Well,
it's like we're all working out our father issues.
Well, that's the other.
No, it's all the projection onto it is all daddy shit, you know, which is a whole other conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Same with, you know, it's like, what do we fucking, you know, people in Russia love Putin. Why are we fucking getting involved with Putin? Like, what is that? You know, like, it's none of our business. Well, he's involved with us. Is he? Okay, I guess. I don't know, but there's some weird fucking daddy shit going on with Putin, with Trump. There's a lot of projection, a lot of anger at the father. I understand.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, it's a whole other conversation about all of that. But you know, now that, you know, I got married in April, and
congratulations.
Thank you. And, you know, I grew up, you know, thinking about equality and egalitarianism. That's what I was sold, as was my wife. And but early on, I was like, fuck that. You know, I don't want you working. You know, I'm going to be the provider. And, you know, we went through this transition, but it's so much better. I'm not saying it's everybody. I'm not, you know, saying everybody has to go back to these, but there's something going on there as well. Like the distortions that feminism created in the quote unquote equality of the sexes, I think is also part of what needs to be undone, because it's the natural masculine feminine polarity. It's what yin and yang, however you want to think about it. It's what keeps things in balance, and we're completely out of balance in that sense. And
it's what creates attraction. And we're living in a society that a lot of single people.
Yeah. Well,
there's a lot of single people that are not really into anybody, or I mean, I see that around me, because there's not polarity. There's no
polarity. Guys don't know. I mean, I had to learn it. It's like, you know, it's open the woman's door. It's sexist. We're all the same. You know, leadership, a man leading and providing is, you know, that's a model from the past, and it's no longer relevant. And, you know, it's all bullshit. It's all complete bullshit. And I mean, there's also like so much of the work that I see right now is actually it's exactly that. It's polarity work, where they're trying to find, you know, that how do I have polarity in relationship with these kind of modern principles, where the woman is not wanting to stay at home and raise the kids, where they're working and they're ambitious, and in that sense, and they're masculine. And so how do they, but they don't want to be in their masculine. They want to be led in the dance, but then they don't know how to turn it off. And, you know, it's that's
interesting.
Oh yeah. It's everywhere. I mean, everybody teaching it, and so many people are longing for it. And there's a lot of shame around it. Like, women have a lot of shame around wanting a man to provide, or wanting to be led by a man, because they feel like it's wrong or it's bad, because that's what they were told growing up. And I see it in my practice. I see it everywhere. And I think it's a big part of what's going on, you know, in terms of I mean, then it gets played out in this, you know, the transgender. It's a kind of a natural expression of that. Well, women can be men and men can be women. It's like, no, that's not a thing. What are you talking? Like it feels like we were in a lie, and then that lie had to keep compounding on itself until it got to the place like, no, a transgender woman is a woman. It's like, really? It's
Right.
actually no, it's actually a woman. So a man could be a woman. Well, it's not a man; it's a woman now. You're just like, and which is it's insane, like that you have to take it that far, which is really about trying to prove your point somehow that there is like genders all in a construct and men and women are exactly the same. So men can play women's sport. It's just. I mean, we've gone and
Yeah, there's no truth. There's no truth,
There's no
and so
no truth.
yeah,
And it's like you say, hey, well, is this a good idea? And then they scream that you're a fucking transphobe. You're like, I'm not I don't give a fuck. But what I care about is truth and reality. And I stand by and let lies be disseminated. It's not good. It's actually evil. And why do you need to do that?
yeah, and that's really what Neptune coming into Aries is going to be about. It's a confrontation with reality. It feels like to me, and that's going to be painful for some. It's going to be very exciting for other people. And I do want to say too that I feel a spiritual awakening coming to this country.
Yeah, I do too.
It feels very big. And it feels like it's probably going to be needed as medicine for the insanity that is, people are going to need help, So I do feel like the church religion is like, there's going to be, we've had great awakenings in this country before. I think there's another great awakening coming.
Oh yeah.
I have I feel a little bit mixed about that. I feel excited, and I also feel a little bit like, okay, I think the church needs to go through its own kind of evolution, maybe. And maybe it has been going through that. I hope that it has been.
Well, I think there's a generation of people that are going to be influencing it. I mean, I know a lot of people are going back to the church, and they're good people, and they have a slightly different perspective than the older generation. And religion always corrupts. It's just humans are corrupted in some way. But so there's no perfection there. But I agree. More people are coming back to God, and there is in these religion, in the rituals and in the practices, like there's power in them. And yes, okay, I grew up Catholic. Yeah, the Catholic Church, it's all kinds of nonsense. The Pope is a fucking, World Economic Forum. Fuck him. But at the same time, Jesus is fucking badass. And all the Bible and the teachings, it's all there. And if you go in and make it your own and tolerate the insanity that surrounds it, it's the same in the Native American, some of their practices. Like they're incredibly deep, and the rituals have real power. It's almost like they're technologies, is how I see it.
Of course, yeah, spiritual technologies, yeah.
Spiritual technology that connect you to other dimensions of reality. And these dimensions of reality is information that is like unbelievably valuable, and there's the only way to get there is through these technologies. You can't read it in a book. You have to have the experience. And it's like, if you do these rituals and over time, like, you're going to have these experiences that are going to waken you up to this ever.
Well, and this is an important piece.
Insanity. There's always human beings, like, fucking, their egos get involved, and you got to do it this way, and that's wrong, and that's just part of it.
Right. But like, the momentum of time is moving us more into the individuality is primary. Sovereignty is primary. Yeah, and this country was founded when the ruler of Uranus was discovered. I mean, the ruler of Aquarius, Uranus, was discovered right around the time that this country was founded. So it's like, and the south node of the U.S. chart is in Aquarius. So it's like we kind of, our country was founded with that energy of the sovereign.
Yeah,
sovereign, not the king.
Yeah.
But I want to add to this spiritual technology thing. There is a way in which the level of evil and control that we've been under has really dampened or put a lid on our spiritual senses.
Yeah.
Like our capacity to express our divine capabilities has been very much suppressed by all of this evil. So I think we're stepping into a time where we need substances to access that other information.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're not going to need it.
No.
I mean, yeah, it might be nice to have it. We're entering a time where that stuff is going to be very accessible because the lid is off of the control.
Yeah.
And that's exciting to me.
I agree. I think it's going to be right there. I think this awakening is going to happen. It is happening. And I know it's happened inside me. You know, I feel it. I feel like my connection to God is just getting stronger and stronger. And part of it is just, you know, I mean, I don't know. I'm just following it, right? But I look at it now, it's, you know, kind of what I said earlier. It's like, it's a survival instinct, because if you don't have something to hold on to, like something like the deepest thing that there is, like money or a house or whatever, none of that is going to work.
Right.
You have to be with God, and you have to surrender, I think, and trust the wisdom that is there in order to survive what's coming. And I think a lot of people are, whether they're conscious of that or not, are waking up to something that they're being pulled in that direction, because it's just necessary. And also, that's where the action is. I mean, at the end of the day, especially as you get older, it's like, what else is there? Like, it's the best thing, the most interesting thing, the deepest thing. Like, there's really nothing else, and everything else is just a fractal of that thing. So why not just go direct at the thing? And
right.
That's kind of where I'm at. It's the only thing I'm interested in right now. Not the only thing, but it's. I know that the more I'm oriented or centered, in my relationship with God, and that I'm praying regularly and making it the center of my life, the more peace I have, and the more good things come to me.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
All right, David.
It's been great to connect with you.
That was an amazing. I'm glad you reached out. It was an amazing conversation. I appreciate all your wisdom and everything you shared. I mean, there's, you know, as I said, there's a way that you share this stuff that's, well, it's brave, it's courageous, because, you know, I think you don't allow yourself to get influenced by the politics of the situation. You call it as you see it, and I think that's amazing, and we need more of that, because we need people waking up to the truth, and coming to terms with what actually is, so that they don't get swept in the tidal wave.
Yeah, and we need more people like expressing their gifts, their uniqueness in the world. That's what we need. We need more of that uniqueness so that we can thrive. And that's really the symbol of Aquarius, is the water bearer. You know, it's the person who has taken their water, their soul, their emotional life, they've transmuted it, and they're now pouring it back out into the world to share that with people. So I see that as the high road of Aquarius, and I wish that for myself and for you and for all of us.
I think we should title this, I don't know, you tell me, Trump in the Age of Aquarius. Is that an appropriate conversation?
I love it.
Yeah, perfect. Trump in the Age of Aquarius. Thanks, Dave. David Chitara.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, God bless.
Take care. God bless you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to finish.